Good morning. We're going to be working through some Unit 3 items, taking a look at them. A lot of them are just going to be reviews. Some of them we're going to think about and see if you can come up with the answers for it. We're going to start with this first item here. And before we actually begin with this, the substitute is going to pass out a packet that looks just like this one. And I'm going to explain the items, what you need to do. You are then going to work on the one or two items that you see on the screen before I come back in and talk about what the answers should be. I want you to use a pen to mark your answers, and then if your answer that you have is not correct, I want you to use pencil to write the correct answer. And you're going to be turning these papers in so I can see what you thought the answer was, and then if it's also written in pencil, then I know that you made a change. So I'm going to wait about 40 seconds, and I want you to take out a pen and a pencil. Do that right now. Go. Okay, you should have a pen and a pencil. And remember, your first answer is going to be written in pen. So we're looking at this coordinate plane here. And we have a statue, a rose bush, a palm tree, and a fountain that are marked with coordinate points on the grid. And looking at item number 1, coordinates 3, -6 represent which point? So remember, when you're looking at your ordered pairs, you always look at X first and then Y. And you're going to find which one of these items is represented by 3, -6. The next thing that you're going to look at after you do that is the second item. Michael is pulling weeds under the rose bush. If he walks 9 units to the right, so you know you're going to need to start at the rose bush, 9 units to the right and 4 units up, where would he be? So I'm going to give you 1 minute to work on this. I want you working on this individually. I don't want you collaborating on this. This is not a difficult item. We've done this quite a few times. So 1 minute starting now, and then I'll check back in with you. Go. Okay. So now the coordinates 3, -6. I'm going to start at point of origin. I'm going to go 3 to the right because this is a +3. And I'm going to go -6 on the y-axis. So I'm going to have to go down, and at -6 is fountain. So your answer that you have here should be fountain. Now we're looking at the second one. Michael is pulling weeds under the rose bush. If he walks 9 units to the right and 4 units up, where would he be? Well, here's the rose bush. Now, it's saying he's going to walk 9 units to the right. I'm going to look at the fact that this is -3, and here, this is going to be 0. So this is 3 units that I'm walking here. And in order to make it 9, I need to go 6 more units. So I'm going to be at 6 on the x-axis. And then I'm going to go up 4 units. Well, if I'm at 3 and I go up 4 more, I'm going to be at 7. And where would you be? And that would be a statue. So hopefully you got those with no problem. Again, if you did not, remember, you're going to fix your answers by writing in pencil. You're originally writing in pen, but you're going to show your corrections in pencil. So now let's go down to this coordinate grid, and we're going to answer questions 3 through 5 on this one. And I'm looking at all of the ordered pairs that they have here. And this is what we were just doing yesterday. Which ordered pair best reflects 6 over the x-axis? So here is 6, and I am at 1 1/4 here, and negative 1 1/2. So if I want it reflected over the x-axis, my x coordinate is not going to change. It's still going to be 1 1/4. And my opposite of negative 1 1/2 is going to be positive 1 1/2. So the ordered pair is going to be 1 1/4 over 1 1/2. You could also write this as decimals. So you could also have put 1.25, 1.5, okay, or 1 25 hundredths and 1 5/10. And that would be the same thing. 5/10, if you added a 0, would be 50 hundredths. And again, if this is 1 1/2, this is in between, that's 1 1/4. Okay? And I just realized I just jumped right in and gave you the answer. So we'll count that one as a freebie. So I shouldn't see anything written in pencil in that one. Now, which expression represents the distance between points R and S? Okay, there's R, there's S. You're looking at distance. And I don't have 5 here, so you're going to work on 4. Okay, so look at point R and point S. And this one, I am going to have you talk quickly with the person sitting next to you. You're going to have 45 seconds to determine the distance between those 2 points. Ready? Go. Okay. So I'm going to take a look at what it says here, an expression. So this wants me to be writing something down that's going to look like an expression. So I'm going to think about the fact that I've got a point in the 3rd quadrant and a point in the 4th quadrant. And from here to here and from here to here are different distances. So I'm going to look at, this is 1, and I've got over here, this is at 1 and 1/4. This is 1 and 1/4. So my expression is going to be negative 1 and 1/4 plus 1 and 1/4. But now I'm also going to think if I want distance, I want the absolute value to show distance from 0. So I want the absolute value of point R and the absolute value of point S to be able to write that expression. Okay, so let's clear this. Now, here you have 4 ordered pairs. Place each ordered pair in its correct location on the coordinate grid. So the first thing I'm going to have you do is label the coordinates, or label the quadrants. This is quadrant 1, quadrant 2. And you're labeling as I'm writing this here. Quadrant 3. And quadrant 4. Then you're going to plot these points. I'm not indicating the signs of what each would be. We've learned that you can look at the signs on the horizontal number line or the horizontal axis and the vertical axis. So now I want you working on this individually, not talking to someone else. We've been working on plotting points for several days now. So you should be able to do this without having to confer with another person. So individually with your pen, I'm going to give you 1 minute and 30 seconds to be able to plot all 4 of these points. Okay, get your pen ready and begin. Okay, so that's 1.5 minutes. I'm going to start with L. And this wants me to place the ordered pairs in its correct location on the coordinate grid. And I know that I need to plot X first. So I have -3. I'm going to start at my point of origin, and I'm sorry, not -3, 3. I'm going to start at my point of origin, and there's 3. And my y coordinate is -5. So I need to go down to -5, and I'm going to plot my point there. Okay, I'm also going to label it L. Doesn't say to label it, but I'm going to go ahead and put the L there. And this is in quadrant 4. Now, M is -2, 4. So my X is going to be -2. Again, I'm going to my point of origin, and I'm going to move to the left for -2. And the Y coordinate is 4. 4 is a positive, so I'm going to go up to 4, and I'm going to plot my point here, and I'm going to label that M. Now, N is, X is -1, Y is -6. I'm going to go back to my point of origin, and I'm going to look for -1 and -6. I'm going to plot my point here, and this is N. And my last point is P. And X is 4, Y is 4. They're both positives. I'm going to start at the point of origin. I'm going to move 4 to the right because that's a +4. And I'm going to move 4 up because Y is also a +4. And I'm going to label that P. Okay? Remember, if yours are not plotted exactly like this, you want to use your pencil to make corrections and show where they should be. But I'm willing to bet everyone got that one correct. So now, write the perimeter of the rectangle in the coordinate grid as an equation. Equation, that means it wants me to be writing it down using operative signs like either adding or subtracting to show the numbers. So take 1 minute. I do want you to discuss this with the person sitting next to you. How would you label the perimeter? Remember, perimeter is distance around the rectangle. How are you going to find the distance around this rectangle? Discuss that and then write your equation here. If it's an equation, you're going to have an equal sign and you're going to have a total. So 1 minute and begin. Okay, so if I want the distance around, I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know one of my numbers is going to be 6. Going down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know perimeter is the distance all the way around, so I'm going to be adding. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I also know if these are parallel lines, which they are, and if this is 6, this has to be 6. If this is 5, that means this has to be 5. Okay? Some of you may have written it this way, and you may have looked at, I have 2 6s, so I can do 2 times 6 plus 2 times 5. And that would work also. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 2 times 5 is 10. Or I could add 11. 6 plus 5 is 11, plus 6 plus 5 is 11. Either way, your total is going to be 22 units. And there is my equation. Let me put that equal sign in there. Okay? So if it's an equation, you need an equal sign and your total here. And on this side, you have the distances around that you've either added all together or realized you could multiply 6 times 2, multiply 5 times 2, and still get the same answer. Okay? And again, if you needed to make any changes, use your pencil to write your correct answer. You've seen one like this before. You've seen a few like this. Decide if the answers to the expressions, no equation, no equal sign here, these are not equations, to the expressions are less than 15 or greater than 15. Write the expressions in the correct category in the table. This is the absolute value. Remember, absolute value is not negative. It's distance from 0. So you want the absolute value of these numbers, and these numbers, and these numbers, and these numbers. And then you want to sort out, is the value less than 15 or greater than 15? So take 1 minute and 30 seconds, and you may work together on this, but you're only going to have 1 minute and 30 seconds starting now. Okay, so here we go. The absolute value of 8 and the absolute value of -9. 8 plus 9 is 17. 17 is greater than 15, so I'm going to write the absolute value of 8 plus the absolute value of -9. Because this is telling you to write the expression in the correct category. I have the absolute value of 10 and the absolute value of 13. Well, this is going to be 10 plus 13 is 23. That is greater than 15. The absolute value of -10, which is 10, plus the absolute value of 13, which is 13, gives you 23. 23 is greater than 15. Then I have the absolute value of 4 plus the absolute -4 plus the absolute value of 4. Well, the absolute value of -4 is 4. And 4 plus 4 is 8. So the absolute value of -4, let me make this a little bit bigger, absolute value of -4 and the absolute value of 4 is less than 15. Okay, now I have the absolute value of -7 plus the absolute value of -11. The absolute value of -7 is 7. The absolute value of -11 is 11. 7 plus 11 is 18. So I'm going to write this one here. This is a review from actually Unit 2 when we did absolute value. Okay, so the only expression that was less than -15 was this one. And again, if you needed to make any corrections, make the corrections in pencil. I want to see how you did. If you had a little bit of confusion with it or if you were all set. Now, I've also told you when we looked at coordinate points that you would need to know the value of the coordinate points and the value of the quadrants and which coordinate points would go where based on the signs. If you need to use this to help you, make a quick coordinate grid. Okay, and remember, this is a horizontal number line. Your positive numbers are going to be to the right, your negative numbers are to the left. This is a vertical number line. Your positive numbers are above, your negative numbers are below. And you're going to decide where these points are going to go in either quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you need to, draw this on your paper. You've got room in the margin, and figure out where your coordinate points are going to go. You may work together on this one, and you have 1 minute. Go. Okay, now taking a look at my first ordered pair here. I have positive 4 for x, so I know it's going to be on this side, and I have negative 5 for y. Well, the negative is going to go down here. So I have x and y, and this is going to go in quadrant 4. Then I have x is positive 1, y is positive 3. Again, I'm going to look at x first. 1 would go to the right of 0, and 3 would be above 0. So this is going to be in quadrant 1. Now, I have x is negative 3, y is negative 2. Well, negative 3, my x-axis, I'm going to be going to the left of 0. So this is negative 3 and negative 2. My y is going to be below 0. So I'm going to be in this quadrant here, and that's quadrant 3. Okay, and my last one, I have 5. X is 5. And y is negative 1 and 5/10. And where would I put that one? Well, again, I'm going to look at x first. 5, I'm going to start at my point of origin. 5 is going to be to the right. But my y coordinate is a negative. So my x is a positive, but my y is a negative. So that means I'm going to be putting this in quadrant 4, where I already have another ordered pair that I've plotted, but since they're both in the same quadrant, I'm going to list them both in quadrant 4, and I notice I don't have anything in quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 would be a negative x and a positive y, and I don't have anything that's a negative x and a positive y, so there's nothing in quadrant 2. Hopefully you did well on that one. You had to think a little bit about which direction they were moving in. Okay, so let's go down to the next item. And this tells you to evaluate each statement and decide whether it is true or false, and place a check mark in the true or false column. So this tells me I need to put a mark in either a true or false box for all three. So take 1 minute, read the item. I want you working on this one alone. Read the item, decide if it's true or false. 1 minute, go. Okay, so here we go. To plot a point on a coordinate grid, first move left or right along the x-axis. Well, we've talked about you always plot x first. X can be either positive or negative, so you would move either to the left or the right. Now, the origin of the x and y axes is 0, 0. The origin of the x and y axes, and that's where your x and your y cross over, and we always talk about the point of origin is right there, and that is 0, 0. A point located at 5, -2 can have more than one point of reflection. Well, what are the types of reflections that we've talked about? I can have a reflection over the x-axis, I can have a reflection over the y-axis, or I can have a reflection across quadrants. So is that more than one reflection? It certainly is. Okay? Hopefully you got all of those correct. If not, fix the ones that you did not get, and we will continue. This, you have two sets. Here's one set. Here's another set. Now, this here is just a bracket showing that all of these ordered pairs go together in one set. And this just shows that all of these ordered pairs go together in a second set. Plot the points in each set of coordinate pairs. So you're going to plot your points and make sure you label the points. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, a total of 8 points. So take 1 minute and 30 seconds and plot your points. Ready and go. Okay, so I'm going to start with set 1. My x is -1. So I'm going to find x first, and then I'm going to find y, -1, -1. So I've got my point there. And my next point, I said to label them, but there's not a lot of room here. So we're just going to plot the points. My next point is 3. X is 3. Y is -1. My next point, x is 3, y is 1. My last point, x is negative 1, y is 1. Now I have set 2. And x is negative 1 and y is 1. So I'm going to put it right over that same point. And I have my second set, negative 1, and y is 3. So x is negative 1, y is 3. And my last set of points, x is 3, y is 1. And again, that's the same point that I had there. Okay? So I have plotted my points. Now we have some questions to answer on this. Which ordered pair, we'll clear this first. Actually, I don't have any more questions. That's the end of what you were doing. And it's probably close to the end of the period anyway, so it's just as well. I thought I had put something else there for you to answer, but I did not. So make sure your name is on your paper. You are going to turn your papers in. No paper, no credit. Okay? And I will see you on Friday.